Man, it is easy to get caught up in the comparison game, especially these days. There's so many different places that I feel like we can try to fall into this trap of comparing ourselves and comparing those to everybody else. And as I look at it, there's really two different levels of comparison that we're dealing with like almost all the time. So many forces of input from our phones and from the world around us that lead us to these two separate levels of comparison. And neither of them really help us out, but we still stay in these levels of comparison pretty much all the time. I look at level one comparison where we're like comparing ourselves to other people. We see somebody who has something that we tell ourselves is one of the things that's going to make us happy. And we start comparing ourselves to that person in terms of, are they as smart as us? Are they as talented as us? And especially if we think they're not any of those things, but somehow figured out how to get ahead of us. And we really start to think about those people and we compare where we are now in relation to where they are in their own journey. That's the stuff that we see on YouTube. That's the stuff that we see on Instagram. That's the stuff that we see pretty much in any other kind of platform where we're bombarded with all these different messages and different visions of how other people's lives are. And so naturally, like as humans, we want to look and we want to understand our status because humans are driven so much by status that it is really easy to look at somebody else and compare where you are and what your status is to what you think their status is. And so that's the first level when I think about comparison, but we're also comparing ourselves to ourselves, where we're feeling like what we should have or could have done with our lives up to this point, and thinking that it should for some reason be different. Maybe I should have made a different decision. Maybe I should have worked a little bit harder. Or maybe I feel like I worked as hard as I need to and I'm just not wherever it is that I wanted to be or where I should have been. That's comparing yourself to this like idealized version of yourself that gets the opportunity to make every decision in hindsight, has zero flaws, and really would execute everything exactly as it should be. Like there's no mess of life. It's just like everything just works. Like you get up and it's like what you decided to have happen during the day is exactly what happens during the day. And it's crazy to think that we do compare ourselves to exactly what we think should happen when we're dealing with this idea of us walking through the world some perfect way. And we wonder why we're not. And so we look at that a lot of times as like there's something wrong. Like there's some like, man, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not talented enough, or I'm not good looking enough, or I don't sound good enough, or whatever enough you want to put in there. We're really measuring that up against what we see other people doing, thinking they've got something that we don't. Or we're measuring that up against the idyllic version of ourselves that really only exists in our mind, the one that has no flaws, that everything just works out for. And it's really hard because we don't really grasp what we're really doing when we're comparing. Because we've got two different ways that we compare. We already talked about those. But we don't really understand really what we're comparing to. Because we're not comparing ourselves to other people when we pick up our phones and we scroll and we see all these different pictures of happy lives and nice cars and big houses and vacations and perfect bodies and perfect hair and perfect teeth and all of that. We're comparing ourselves in that case to what other people want to project of themselves. And for whatever reason, we decide to make the connection that when we're in that state of comparison, that the person we're comparing ourselves to, or the projection that that person has of themselves, is what it's like for them all the time. It's like they never have a bad hair day, or they never struggle, or they never feel down about themselves, or they never feel like they themselves aren't enough. That they themselves don't have to compare themselves to anybody because, hey, they've already got it figured out. Well, I can promise you this. 46 trips around the sun for me so far. And I haven't met anybody that's got it completely figured out, where their life is just sunshine and rainbows, driving Lamborghinis to mansions on the beach. I haven't figured anybody out like that, or I haven't met anybody like that. Doesn't mean there aren't people like that, but it means in 46 trips around the sun, chances are I might have run into those people. But we're not comparing ourselves to that person. We're comparing ourselves to the way that person is projecting themselves in the world. It's almost like people are actors in their own movie when they're showing their lives online, the ones that we compare our lives to, which are very real world lives where we have to sleep, we get hungry, we have to poop. They did too. You just don't realize it. You don't think about it. Because there they are dressed beautifully and going to like fancy parties and stuff, and you think that that's how they live all the time, and you wonder why my life is not like that. Well, I promise you, if you had a camera on these people all day, every day, running a live stream, their life probably looks a lot more mundane, looks a lot more normal, looks a lot more like you would expect, looks a lot more like probably your life. So we don't realize that we're not comparing ourselves to the other person. We're comparing ourselves to the projection that that other person is putting out there. But we're also comparing ourselves, and this is one that I think messes people up more than any other type of comparison, is they're comparing themselves against the expectation they have for themselves. Right? We have these expectations because really, I mean, we can create whatever it is we want to create. We can live whatever life we really want to live. And that's not a motivational talk. That's just a fact. We get to be the controllers or the creators of whatever life unfolds in front of us. Now, with that comes a big expectation of how we think our lives should go. Now, chances are you probably had some point in the past where somebody asked you what you wanted your future to look like. And you were probably really young when that happened. Maybe third grade teacher asked you what you want to be when you grow up. And you talk about all these amazing things that you want to do. And you talk about, well, people talk to you about all sorts of potential. You got great potential. There's so much potential for you out there to go do these great things. And you believe it. And you believe it because it's true. But when you believe it because it's true, that also creates an expectation for how your life should unfold. And so you start to make these comparisons about where you feel like you quote unquote should be in your path to achieving what you expect you should get out of your life and out of yourself. And once again, you start to feel like, man, what am I doing wrong? Why am I falling short of what I expect to have happen? Because your expectations were really built up on this idyllic version of yourself that you also compare yourself to, it's no wonder that you haven't achieved them. Or it's no wonder that you feel like you're falling short. Now, here's the crazy part. When I say because you haven't achieved them, you might think that you see people that have achieved all sorts of things and you think like, okay, they figured it out. They've got it made. But I promise you, all of those people that have made the money and drive the cars and they seem on point spiritually and they've got good families, like for real good families, not just the kind of families that you like put on a Christmas card and everything looks great even though they're all fighting all the time. Those people feel like they haven't made it yet. Just like you do. Just like I do. Because we're measuring ourselves against our expectations for ourselves. And then picture these projections that other people are putting out there as like pressure cookers to think that that's what it should be like. You mix that with your own expectations of, man, I thought this is what I would have. And because I'm not there, I'm clearly doing something wrong because I'm not smart enough, not good enough, not pretty enough, not skinny enough, not buff enough, not fat enough, like whatever enough you want to put in there. And you can put anything in there. What it shows is it really shows that we're being pulled away from gratitude of what is. Like we're not thankful nearly enough for what's happening right now. because we look at it from this state of comparison about where other people are or where we think we should be. And every time we think that there should be something better, we're turning away from gratitude of what's happening right now. If you look at your life, regardless of where your life is or where you think you are in your life, chances are you got things to be grateful for. You're breathing if you're watching this right now. We could start there. I'm grateful to be able to take this breath. I'm grateful for the idea that I can even be grateful. As long as our minds are constantly in a state of comparison, which is really about wanting to get to some desired future state, we have a really tough time being grateful for what is and what is happening right now. And the crazy part about this is that the more you focus your feelings and your thoughts and everything like that on this desired future state, the further away you push it because of the lack of gratitude for what we have right now. The other thing that's happening in that is a lack of acknowledgement. It's a lack of acknowledgement and appreciation for yourself and where you are in your life's journey right now. If we think we're not in the right spot, how's that even possible? Because the universe was formed, I read this, 13-something billion years ago. Do you realize everything that had to happen exactly as it had to happen for you to be sitting where you're sitting right now or standing where you're standing right now? And it couldn't have happened any other way for that to happen where you are right now. If your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather hadn't visited some watering hole on one particular day, and your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother hadn't gotten sick or wasn't sick and was able to go to the same watering hole, if that didn't happen, you wouldn't be here. So to think that you're not on the right path, at the right place, at the right time, isn't even possible because nearly trillions of interactions would have had to happen simply for you to be where you are right now. So acknowledge where you are on the path and know that no matter where you are on the path, you're exactly where you need to be and you are right on time. We have to acknowledge the fact that we're on this journey and people progress on this journey at different speeds. Some people you see shoot up really quick. Same people fall really quick too. And they do that because when you have some level of achievement that happens really, really quickly, like take a look at lottery winners. There's some statistic out there where if you win the lottery, you typically lose almost all of it within, I think, 12 to 18 months. And we're talking about the really, really big winners. And it does that because it took no discipline to attain it. Pain's a great teacher. Hardship is a great teacher. They didn't have to go through that. And so it's easy to disrespect what you get when you didn't have to work for it. So if you feel like it's taking you a long time or you're behind wherever it is that you should be on your path to getting wherever it is you think you're going, I would encourage you to just have gratitude for where you are right now. Like, think of these things daily that you're grateful for, down to the fact that you get to breathe, down to the fact that you get to learn, down to the fact that you get to grow, down to the fact that you get to interact with other people, down to the fact that you have a roof over your head. And then just acknowledge. I would encourage you to acknowledge yourself for being on the path and on the journey. Doesn't matter where you are on that journey, acknowledge the fact that you are on it. And you get to be in awe of all of it. Now, I'm not telling you what to do. I can't tell you what to do. You can decide what you want to do. My hope in anything that I'm putting out there is that it prompts you to think. Gives you maybe some perspective that opens up maybe a new way of thinking. And once you receive an idea, the most important thing is to act on it however you feel like you need to act on it. So, I don't know when you're watching this, but this is the first one of these that I'm recording. There'll be many more like this in the future, because I think that there's just an elevation in the energy that needs to change. We get so down on ourselves, we get so down on each other that we forget that we came here perfect, whole, and complete in the first place. We get so busy trying to do so much that we move away from the stillness that creates everything in the first place. So we're going to talk a lot about that. But I acknowledge you for watching. I acknowledge you for watching this long. Acknowledge yourself for doing that. Attention spans are short. Only when the information doesn't resonate and isn't important. So if you watch to this stage, it means it resonates, which means it's important to you. Keep doing things that are important to you.